Hey guys, what is up? Legendary Narwhal back again, this time talking about Frost Mages, also dubbed Snow Spec. Frost is PvP, I don't do that shit. Snow is PvE, but I'll call it Frost because I'm sure that's what most of you are used to. Anyway, so, first of all, some of you have probably already turned this off. Oh my god, Frost Mage PvE, what the fuck? Well, just watch. Just watch and listen. Before I even begin talking about Frost, at the moment, and on live and on here, do I believe Frost will ever outdamage something like, oh, I don't know, Arcane? Absolutely not. It's not going to happen. Now, Frost is really good in PvP. It always has been because of all the slows, the roots, the kiting, the sheer survivability that you gain. However, its damage is not to be underestimated either, and just because this is really good in PvP doesn't mean that it instantly sucks in PvE. This is actually fairly good. So, core abilities: Frostbolt, your main nuke; Summon Water Elemental, very important; Ice Lance, very important; Fingers of Frost, basically the only thing that allows this to work and be possible. So, Fingers of Frost we're going to talk about first. Your successful Frost Bolts and Frost Fire Bolts, so both, have a 12% chance. Your successful Frozen Orb hits, Frozen Orb, we'll go over that, have a 20% chance. And your successful Scorches, Scorch is now a talented move, we'll get to talents in just a moment, have an 8% chance to grant you the Fingers of Frost effect. Fingers of Frost effect causes your next Ice Lance or Deep Freeze to act as if your target were frozen, and it increases Ice Lance damage by 25% for 15 seconds. That buff is new. The Ice Lance damage buff is new. We didn't have that before. Ice Lance already deals a lot of damage. As you can see, it's very cheap, and against a frozen target, its damage is quadrupled. Okay? It has a huge multiplier against frozen targets, and it's going up by another 25% with this. That's very, very good. Now, you only get that 25% from Fingers of Frost effect. If I was fighting a mob, and I used Frost Nova, and I froze them in place, or if I used Deep Freeze or something on a mob and froze them in place, and I used Ice Lance, I would gain my ×4 multiplier, sure. I would not get the 25%. That is Fingers of Frost only. Okay? Okay. Talents. I've kind of decided over the course of doing these rambling videos that I will actually go through each one and kind of talk about them, because why not? I'm not going to mention any of the bottom row. I really went over that in my Arcane rambling video already. So we'll start off on the top. Presence of Mind. Same thing as it has been in Arcane, however now any class can get it. Right now on live it's impossible for anyone but Arcane to have this spell. Now everybody can do it. You can go back to the days of POM Pyroblast if you would really like that. So, Scorch, everyone can use it. On live currently you need to be fire and have spec'd in to when you have Molten Armor on, you can do this while moving. You can also spec into this being free. Right now, it is free and can be cast while moving no matter what, just by talenting into this. So, if you believe you will be doing a fight where you either 1, won't really have any mana, or 2, you're going to have a lot of movement, then you may want to take Scorch. Okay, basically everything in this row will help you doing damage by moving. Scorch is going to be by far the most consistent. Ice Flow is what I've taken for now, allows you to move while casting and channeling the next 2 mage spells that have a base cast or channel time less than 4 seconds. Meaning, you cannot hit this and abuse it with evocation. You cannot evocate, that is a channel, but you cannot channel that during this since it is not less than 4 seconds. Now, Ice Barrier, next row. This is more the survivability row. Ice Barrier, same as it has been. It absorbs a lot of damage, lasts for a minute. Your spell casting doesn't get pushed back when this is up. Obviously, they're not hitting you. Blazing Speed. This is different. You can actually activate this now. This is an instant move instead of it just happening. You now have to activate this. So, it still speeds you up, and you can activate it after taking a melee or spell hit greater than 2% of your total HP, PvP, or after you kill anything that gives you experience or honor, you can just cast it. So I basically took this for leveling. I kill something, tap this, I can go really quick to my next mob. Temporal Shield. Envelops you in a temporal shield for 4 seconds. Damage taken will be healed back over 6. You cannot use this while you're CC'd, is basically what it's saying. Heavy CC, hard CC. Now, it does not mention it here. However, I believe that this will not save you from death. Damage taken while shielded will be healed back over 6 seconds. I don't think that means death. It just means damage. There is a move that we get much later on. If you look all the way, let's see if we can find it here. I may be able to just look in the current spec. Yes, alter time. So, actually no, I take it all back. This one as well. It does not affect you if you die. So, really what this is now looking at this and looking at the other one, I'm fairly confused. Basically, this one will involve location and mana and condition, meaning you can remove debuffs by doing this preemptively. That's really the only benefit that that has over, say, Temporal Shield, because they both do the damage. This one heals it back over time, the other one does it instantly. It's obviously slightly better. Next row. Some CC stuff. Summons a Ring of Frost. We have that on live. Whatever. Ice Ward on a friendly target. This is basically what the talents for Ice Barrier are at the moment on live for Frost. Is when your Ice Barrier is broken, you can talent into that radiating out of Frost Nova. This is basically the same thing. They'll be frozen in place when that gets broken. Frostjaw is what I have for leveling. It's a new move. Silence and freezes the target in place for 8 seconds. So in PvP it's 4, but for player versus environment it is 8. That's a long time, and that's a lot of time that they're frozen. You'll be able to do a lot of damage during that. I'm assuming this will not work on bosses. Obviously I haven't tried it, but I believe this won't work on bosses. I'll update everybody on that once I can actually see. Now, I'm a Frost Mage. Right now, I'm a Frost Mage. Great. I did not take Cold Snap, mostly because now Cold Snap is very, very bad. There's really no reason to take it at all unless you're going to do PvP. When activated, look at the ones that it finishes the cooldown on. Ice Block, Frost Nova, and Cone of Cold. There's 2 very important moves that it is leaving off that on live currently it does have. Its cooldown is much lower as a result. It's 3 instead of the, I believe, 8 on live. But this is a massive nerf as far as Frost Mage PvE burst damage. This is a massive nerf. On live, it will also refresh Icy Veins and Deep Freeze. Meaning, if you have 2 charges of Fingers of Frost, you can open the fight with Deep Freeze, Icy Veins, hit Cold Snap to refresh them both, hit Deep Freeze again, and then do your normal rotation while you have the Icy Veins, and then since you hit Cold Snap, its cooldown is already refreshed completely, while yours is still going. So as soon as your current one runs out, you can hit this again. So on live, you can do back-to-back Deep Freezes, and you can have basically 40 seconds of haste. It's very, very powerful. This is a massive nerf as a result. Cauterize. I have this on live. I play a Fire Mage on live. I don't usually do Frost. I do either Arcane or Fire. Cauterize can and will save your life. I take this because it is probably going to be the most useful out of all of these. This has actually saved my life in raids a few times, and I'd like to think that as a direct result of that, my continued damage can help us down the boss. This will save you. I strongly recommend taking Cauterize. Greater Invisibility. It's invisibility, except it removes some dots on you. It still takes away all your threat, which invisibility already does anyway. But the damage is reduced while invisible and as soon as you come out. I'm going to say PvP. There's really no reason you would want this for a PvE environment. Now, this row I will actually change to take Nether Tempest as Frost. I'll explain why. Went over all of these, went over kind of Frost Bomb and all that in the other video. Frost Bomb, you can only cast it on one. It will deal loads of damage to one target and then hit everyone around it for frost damage as well, and it'll slow everyone. It will go off quicker the more haste you have. Its cooldown will be lower the more haste you have. However, you can only place this on one target. Now, if we look right here to Brain Freeze, your Nether Tempest, Living Bomb, and Frost Bomb spells have a chance when they deal damage to cause your next Frost Firebolt spell to be instant cast, cost no mana, and deal 25% additional damage. This is a change. Obviously, these moves are new, but it is still a change from live regardless. Frostbolt right now is what helps you get Brain Freeze, meaning that as Frost, it is not viable to be a Frost Firebolt mage. When Cataclysm first came out, Elementalist was actually pretty viable. Before you were locked in to going all the way down one tree in talents before you could put points in another one, it was actually viable for a mage to go about halfway down fire and about halfway down frost, getting things like Ignite, the crit stuff from Frost, and things like that, because Frost Firebolt benefited from it all. It was very, very powerful in that regard. Elementalist was pretty cool. Now, you can't really do that because, well, for one thing, now I believe Ignite is fire specific and no one else can even get it. But also because you can't go into another tree before you finish your current one. Now, they may be bringing it slightly back. Frost Firebolt can proc Brain Freeze, giving you an instant Frost Firebolt. You don't have to do Frostbolt if you don't want to. However, Frostbolt will probably end up being slightly better. I'll explain why in a moment. However, it's debatable. We're going to get there, I promise. We're going to get there. But seeing as it procs from everything, including Nether Tempest, and Nether Tempest can be placed on as many targets as you want, and every tick it deals damage to someone else, I believe the chance will be higher of getting a Brain Freeze proc if you have a lot of Nether Tempests up than if you simply cast one Frost Bomb. That's my thought process. I don't know if that's going to be correct. As of now, I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to go with that. Went over the last row, so we're not going to talk about that. As I kind of mentioned in a previous video as well, I believe on my Arms Warrior ramblings, I don't want to talk about glyphs right now, mostly because some of them are not yet implemented, some of them don't even matter anymore, some of them have just not been changed to accommodate new spells. There's no point. Glyphs are probably going to change quite a bit, so I'm going to ignore glyphs for now. So, let's get into our abilities here for Frost. So, Ice Lance number 1. I already talked about that. Deals quadruple damage on frozen targets. Very, very powerful. Frostbolt. Deals damage just like Frost Firebolt. Now, you won't get Ignite from Frost Firebolt. You don't. Ignite is fire only. So, you may say, oh, well, this is more of a cosmetic thing, except Frostbolt casts faster. Well, there is a glyph for Frost Firebolt right here. It will reduce the cast time by 0.5 seconds. So that would bring this down to about 2. This is 1.8. They would be about the same cast time. Now, here's your issue. If you look at Shatter, doubles the crit chance against frozen targets plus an additional 40%. So basically you always crit things that are frozen. And then it also states increases damage done by Frostbolt, not Frostfire, just Frostbolt, against frozen targets by 20%. So, your Frostfire Bolt will be better to spam than Frostfire Bolt because of this. However, if you're fighting a frozen target, you're going to want, your priority for that is going to be Deep Freeze, and if Deep Freeze is down, you're going to want to use Ice Lance. basically all the time. The only occasion where this buff would matter and you would be doing Frostbolt on a frozen target over Ice Lance is if it was not given by Fingers of Frost. Fingers of Frost, you will always use Ice Lance because of the 25% damage buff that we mentioned earlier. If it is not Finger of Frost based, then yes, this 20% buff will probably make Frostbolt hit harder, regardless of the times 4 multiplier. So, since bosses can't be frozen anyway, and Fingers of Frost is the only way to get it, the damage buff from Frostbolt here it's really a moot point. It really doesn't matter against a boss, because they're not going to be frozen unless it's from Fingers of Frost, and in that situation, this 20% is not going to outweigh Ice Lance anyway, most likely. So, I maintain my stance. It's probably going to be a cosmetic thing. Frostbolt will technically do more since it casts quicker, but we'll have to just see where that goes. Deep Freeze is the same as it's been before. It stuns the target for 5 seconds. It's only usable on frozen targets. Now, something that I am very, very worried about as of right now is that, as you see here, it's not Frost specific, I don't believe. It's not under core abilities. That doesn't mean that it won't be in another spec. It simply means I'm assuming that it won't be. Now, if we look in our spellbook and we find Deep Freeze, let's find it. Alright. Stuns the target for 5 seconds, only usable on frozen targets. It doesn't mention dealing damage against things that are immune to stuns. This is something I have not tested yet, however it is something I am very, very worried about. If you don't do damage anymore with Deep Freeze, then there's absolutely no point in playing Frost. It will officially be by far probably the single worst DPS spec literally in the entire game, and you should never do it for absolutely any reason in PvE. If this still does damage, then it may still be viable. Its damage is incredibly high. On live right now, without any sort of outside buffs, I can crit anywhere between 70 and 90k with Deep Freeze. And with Cold Snap, being able to do those back to back, it's a lot of burst damage. It's very, very powerful. So, I'm a little concerned. There's probably cause for concern. Hopefully, we'll see where that goes. Frostjaw we mentioned, Frost Bomb we mentioned. I'm probably going to have another Tempest instead. Cone of Cold, it does quite a bit of damage. It doesn't say because I have the wrong tooltips on at the moment, but Cone of Cold is more powerful than before. I believe there's a glyph that increases damage by 200%. Yeah, 200%, so that's pretty powerful. I would say that's going to be a good part of our AoE rotation. Blizzard, I've always thought that Blizzard was a very pathetic AoE ability, and I pretty much maintain that, seeing as now, and it's been this way for a while, this isn't a recent thing, but AoE damage was nerfed in the respect that you see how it does a certain amount of damage over a certain number of seconds? That is not individual to every target that is within the AoE. That is shared amongst everything in the AoE. Meaning, yeah, you're doing 17,000 over blah 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 seconds. If you're doing it on one mob, it will total to 17k to that one mob. If you're doing it on a huge crowd of mobs, you're going to be lucky to get more than 2k apiece. Now, again, I have not played Frost. I have not bothered to AoE with Blizzard in quite a while because of my belief that that's how it works. If that is false, then I apologize. That'll be one thing that I'm wrong about in this video. But I believe that is the case, and it costs 5,000 mana. I don't want to spend it. Frozen Orb is going to be your main AoE. This is slightly different. On live right now, it does a single beam. I believe it's called Frost Fire Orb, actually. And it does a single beam of damage. And on here, on Pandaria, instead, it will fly forward from your spot, and it'll launch out Frost Bolts. Those Frost Bolts will deal damage. Now, it will also give you a Finger of Frost charge when it first reaches its target. And it does have a slow, but we don't really care. So this combined with the Fingers of Frost giving us, as you see here, your successful Frozen Orb hits have a 20% chance. Frozen Orb, you're going to want to use it to AoE, but you're also going to want to use this in single target because it is going to give you a lot of Finger of Frost charges. It's going to be very, very powerful. Now, I'm going to summon out my Water Elemental. Right here, Freeze. It's a ranged Frost Nova, but it grants you 2 charges of Fingers of Frost. Okay? That's why. Now, that stuns, this does damage. 1, 2, okay, yay. That was 41k on the second one. And cut right there to this. Okay, and then it happened twice. Alright, we're back. Everything is fine. That's the reason why I don't show off spells in these ramblings and it's just me talking. Because if you try to do spells, 9 times out of 10 you get back-to-back 132 errors that just boot you off of the server. That's basically what happened. So, yeah, relearned my lesson again. Hopefully now people understand a little bit more. There's no point in me trying to show off spells during these ramblings because 9 times out of 10 casting any move is probably going to crash me. I am unaware as of the reason why. Hopefully, I mean, beta is beta, it'll change eventually. Good news is we were just about done with the Frost abilities anyway. The rest of the stuff on this bar is all the same that we've had before. Blink teleports you more than 0 yards. As you can see, I'm way over here. It's not 0, it's a lie. Spell Steal, same as it used to be. We have Counterspell, we have Remove Curse, all that good stuff. So, basically, I really only restarted the recording to do final thoughts. Final thoughts for Frost Mages. At the moment, things are looking grim. Things are not looking very good. Deep Freeze looking like it's not going to do damage is probably going to play a very large part in whether or not people even bother to try this at all. Being able to choose either Frostbolt or Frost Firebolt is going to be pretty cool. I'd like to be able to do Frost Firebolt. I believe it looks much cooler. Hopefully that is mostly a cosmetic change and we will see the ability to alternate if we so desire. Ice Lance, still going to be very powerful. Probably going to be one of our highest damaging moves if we actually try to do a full PvE rotation. It will probably do the most damage. We will get Fingers of Frost very often. This will be doing a lot of damage. As you saw, it's an instant move that costs relatively no mana, and it's able to crit for 41k. I'm completely unbuffed. I don't have Arcane Brilliance on, I don't have Molten Armor on, I don't have anything on. And it was still critting for just over 40,000. I'm also not really in the best gear. My average item level equipped is 383. My bagged is 410 because I'm cheating with stuff, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so my item level's not even really all that great. I don't have my 4 set bonus or anything like that, so I don't know. I just don't know. Obviously, as far as single target damage goes, if you ask me what's going to be stronger, Arcane. Arcane hands down. PvP, Frost is still definitely going to shine. It always will. It's always going to be very powerful. I don't believe that's something that's ever going to change, ever. I mean, on live, if you're a good Frost Mage, then you can lock down a lot of people. And for a wounded crewman, she looks very relaxed. Anyway. In PvP, a good skilled Frost Mage can lock down an entire crowd of people and keep them busy for a very long time. We're going to be able to do that anyway, so that's not going to change. So, it's going to be alright. For now, though, this is Legendary Narwhal. This has been rambling about Frost Mages. I apologize for the cuts at the end. I had back-to-back 132 errors. And next video will probably be a Shaman video. I will probably try and touch on Elemental. Mostly because Elemental is something that has always been not very good. Shamans have just been, Ellie shamans in particular, have just been shafted repeatedly and very hard by Blizzard over and over and over again. It's to the point where if you yourself are an Ellie shaman, or you've looked at Ellie shaman forums and stuff like that, like any time recently, then you know that it's a common consensus that, yeah, there's one or two that are really good and can do loads of damage, but on the whole, if you look at the damage you deal and the gear you're wearing, you need to play as a Ellie Shaman to the highest skill level possible with very, very good gear in order to do the same DPS that everyone else is doing without really even trying. So you need to have good gear and high skill in order to just be mediocre and normal and just doing okay. So we're gonna see in the Ellie Shaman Ramblings that I will probably record later on tonight, we're gonna see if that is gonna be the case. We're gonna see if that's going to hold true. Hopefully it will not. Legendary Narwhal, see you guys next time.